All right, let's finish up this chapter and let's talk now about some methods that you may reach somebody for the first time that doesn't necessarily get you direct interaction with them. What if you call and you wind up getting their voicemail? Think of a voicemail as being an audio version of an email, because basically you are presenting them a message, but instead of typing it out and sending it out through email, you're recording your voice for them to hear later. So try to think of the two as analogous there. A voicemail should last no longer than 60 seconds. You want to try to keep it to the point as possible and not go on and on in your conversation. Communicate that you respect the prospect's time. So again, keep it short. Do not mention sales or selling, but you want to emphasize that you're interested in showing how you might be able to help a prospect with the services that you offer. Let's take a look at some of the sections of a voicemail script. Again, there is a reference in your textbook. In the introduction, be informal and conversational. Hi, this is Fred Brucker with WXYZ. Okay. Referral. This could be skipped. It takes a little too much time when you're leaving a voicemail message. If you could leave something very quickly, if it's someone that they know really well, I was given your name by so-and-so. That's probably the extent of what you're going to do in a voicemail. As far as prospect and industry knowledge, you can start off with saying that the reason I called is because, and then say something that you know about the client. Again, you want to keep this as brief as is possible. Give a very short case study that shows proof of performance. And then in your close, ask a provocative question to increase your chances of getting a call back. So something that shows, again, some sincerity in you wanting to know more about them, or thinking about a question that shows that you're giving some thought towards them. That will give an increased chance of getting a call back from them. And then you also want to make sure that you leave your phone number and say it twice. And make sure that you say it the second time slowly, so that, think about someone that's trying to write down your phone number. Give it at a pace that's going to be helpful for them to be able to do that. Some things you don't do with voicemail: you don't want to use terminology such as just following up. Use the call to action instead. Get them to respond to what you are saying. Give them a reason to call you back. Ask a question. Questions are good for getting callbacks and responses. Don't ramble on in your voicemail. Again, 60 seconds is the max, but if you can do it in 25 to 40 seconds, even better. And when you call and you get the voicemail, don't just hang up. Always leave a voicemail. If you don't, you're saying that your calls are not important enough for them to call you back. Leave a voicemail. Ask a question. Prompt them to call you back. Now, let's move on to email. The objectives of a prospecting email is to pique curiosity and interest, to establish your credibility and expertise, and to get a discovery or proposal meeting either online or offline. Again, an example of an email script is in your textbook. When putting together your subject line, you want to customize and personalize the subject line, and you want to keep it informal, but you also want to make sure that the subject line includes something of meat that shows why you're reaching out to them. In your introduction, introduce who you are and who you work for. It's a good idea to use a larger font to make your email readable, especially where a lot of people these days are checking out their email on their cell phones or mobile devices. Makes it much easier to read that way. Use a referral if you have one. Make sure you talk about the prospect's business before you talk about your business. Show that you know something about them. It shows that you have done your homework and that you respect who they are and what they're doing. In your case study, you want to provide a link to your website where prospects can learn more about how your medium solves marketing and advertising problems, about the variety of services or products that you offer. Just about every media outlet is going to have some page on their website that talks about the opportunities of advertising with that outlet. So make sure that you include that. A lot of people like to do research on their own. Hopefully, the website for your company is well done and provides good information, provides some good success stories, maybe even provides some data that would be interesting to prospects. Ask your directed question. Ask a question that links a prospect's problems to your solutions. And then in your closer, make sure that you have that call to action. Ask them for a visit to see if there is a fit with them and you. And make sure that you have the phone number. Make sure that you have your email address. Make that very easy to see within your email. Have a good signature that provides that information. If you can include the company logo, that's a good thing. You want the signature to be nice and clean and readable and professional looking. I would suggest having your name and the company name in bold print. And again, make sure your email address and your phone number are prominent and easy to see. A/B testing scripts. Basically what this means here is that you may have different scripts that do the same things, but you use them in different situations. Maybe you swap them out every once in a while. You can use different scripts written in different formats and layouts, and you can even try to keep track as to which ones do better than others. You don't want to use the same script all the time, because even though it makes it easier for memorization, it can also make it sound like that you've memorized something. And the fact that you've memorized something is almost as bad as you just reading something. You want your conversations to sound fresh and authentic. So test different wordings in different scripts. When you're organizing your email prospecting, you should be organized in such a way as to take into consideration the response rates. Proper follow-up responses can happen that way. And again, pay attention to what you've put out, the way you've worded those email scripts, what comes back to you, and tweak and adjust things as necessary. Now, prospecting on social media. You want to try to follow your prospects on their social media accounts. Look them up on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever else they may be. And something that can get you pretty significant points is if they've written something that is valuable or you think is thought-provoking, retweet their posts. People love it when you share their content. Become familiar with prospects' personal and business pages, and post regularly on your own social media. Keep your LinkedIn profile up to date. Use your social media presence to be someone that is seen as knowledgeable. We call this thought leadership, that you have some insights, not just in your medium and in your business, but in the businesses of others that you interact with. And it's also a good idea to comment on other people's stuff. We talk a lot about this in the social media class. There's all sorts of ways to create a presence online that can help you to be able to network with people and ultimately be able to do business with people. The top 6 prospecting mistakes development salespeople make. At least according to the author here, let's explore them. Expecting instant results. It often takes weeks, even months, to close a deal. Persistence is the key. Now, we said earlier in the chapter that you don't necessarily want to waste your time with someone that doesn't seem like they're moving the needle towards coming over and buying something from you. But if you're able to engage in conversation, you keep their curiosity piqued, they keep coming back to you and listen to you more and more and maybe invite you to appointments, that's someone that you can continue to reach out to because there's still a little life in that prospect. You don't want to write long emails. You want to keep your emails as concise as possible. Uh, People don't want to sit there and read a long narrative. Make your emails short and simple, but make sure they contain the information they need to have. You don't want to go wide. And what we mean here is that you don't necessarily want to just kind of shoot everywhere and anywhere. Make your connections deep. Make them in such a way that you're investing time in learning about a business, learning about the leadership in the business. Focus on that account. And as you do so and you're making your case, you want to try to make the best possible fit that you can. Also, a mistake, giving up too quickly at ideal targets. If an account is the right fit, stay on it until you get an absolute no from the decision maker. You want to be pleasantly persistent. There is the danger of going overboard, so you don't want to do that, but you do want to keep regular contact with someone that is willing to continually engage with you. Don't give up too quickly on non-ideal targets, because you never know when you might be able to turn them around. You might not spend as much time on them if they seem like they're not moving the needle towards you, but it's okay to occasionally reach out to them. Perhaps you found a new insight that's helpful for them in their industry. Feel free to share that. Let them know whenever there's special emphases that are going on at your media outlet, incentives for advertising packages and things like that. And depending on activity metrics rather than a proven process, that's a big mistake as well. Instead, you want to focus on results. You want to focus on appointments. Who cares that you made 500 calls last week? The big thing is how many of those calls resulted in making your way to the next step. Focus on results. Focus on getting the appointments. If you wind up having a long conversation with a prospective client, don't let that be a deterrent. Sometimes the long conversations can turn into loyal customers. Now, let's talk about inbound prospecting. This is where folks actually reach out to you. Marketing tools like websites, webinars, blogs, podcasts, articles, booths at trade shows and conferences, ads in your own medium, all these things can bring in leads. So that sort of marketing, if someone calls in and says, hey, I heard about advertising opportunities, I'd like to learn more. Now, inbound sales opportunities should be distributed by some sort of metric. At the very least, there ought to be a rotation schedule among the sales staff so that everyone gets an equal opportunity. But even better would be if someone is assigned to a certain geographic area, perhaps that person would get it. Or if someone is an expert in a certain category, that salesperson would be the one to follow up with a prospect that makes the first step. So whatever the system is, number one, there ought to be a system, but that system be in place and that people that call in or write in and inquire about advertising are responded to in a very prompt manner. Some tips on improving prospecting. Several of these in the textbook, and there's an endless list of tips and tricks out there from sales gurus far and wide. These are just some ones that are rather basic, that are good things to consider. Not all of them are going to work all the time, but some things to keep in the back of your mind. You need a scripted sales pitch. designed to hit your metrics. Again, it's that idea of keeping your thoughts in focus and being consistent with what you're telling people. Test in a weekly schedule, talking about the various scripts that you use. Adopt a buyer's mentality. What do buyers want to buy? Always keep in mind that question that the prospect is asking. What's in it for me? Don't oversell. One major way people oversell is offering too many features. Use the KISS method here. Keep it simply simple. If you ramble on, then at least you're going to lose somebody by just continuing on with the narrative. They can't focus on what you're saying. At worst, they're just going to shut you out. Put new recruits through boot camp. Train all new hires for a week before making sales. So a new employee that comes in as a salesperson ought to be shown the ropes as to how the operation works at that particular media outlet, to be able to learn expectations, to network with some of the other salespeople, to get them comfortable in the environment. Immerse hires in success. Play recordings of successful calls on a weekly basis. This builds motivation and momentum. We all like that inspirational shot of the day or of the week to help keep us going. Give people goals that they can hit. Make them challenging, but doable. So you want something that people are going to have to put effort into, but that it's not so far out of reach that it seems hopeless to even try. Have a script in front of people at all times. Stick to what has been tested and what works. Do not have more than one script change a week. Again, it's good to change out scripts now and again, but also keep in mind consistency of message. Teach hires to sell with customer stories. You want salespeople to communicate why customers think the product is awesome. Don't just claim that your stuff is good. Show evidence of people outside your organization that say it's good. Make constant coaching practical. Make it possible for managers to monitor and help their salespeople. It not only helps them to learn how to do things better, but also gives them a little bit of confidence to help them in going the right way and knowing where they stand in terms of their performance. Kick off Mondays on the right note. Begin every week with a sales meeting where the focus is on positive motivation. Set the tone for the attitude that's going to be carried out throughout the week. Motivate with group competition. Run all kinds of competitions for teams. Who spent the most minutes on the phone? Who had the most meetings? Who had the longest winning streak? Vary it up. Allow people with all sorts of different strengths to be able to compete in some fashion. Make it fun. Have themes like March Madness or Battle of the Sexes. Give silly awards like Legos. People will build Lego towers and have a ball. The more you can create this sort of fun environment where people can have a certain amount of outlet for doing things that might help as a de-stressor or a way to celebrate with others. All those things. People get involved in that and have fun with it. Celebrate victories everywhere you can. Communicate wins every time you can. You ever go into a fast food restaurant and when you're walking out the door, there's that little thing off to the side that says, if your service was swell, then ring the bell? You know, it seems like a silly thing, but when someone hears that bell and they've appreciated the service they got, then they get excited. So it's important for us to celebrate every little victory. Celebrate the no's as well. When people hit their first 10 no's, ring a bell, ring a gong. Celebrate that too. It helps people get past the fear of rejection. Have fun with that. Make it a learning experience and let people know that they are going to get a whole lot more no's than yeses, and that's okay. Bring customers in as much as possible. People are typically fascinated with the media, so when it's feasible, bring customers to the office, to the station, to the studio. People are still somewhat in awe when they walk into a place and they see the master control room or the cameras and the studios and the microphones and meet some of the personalities. There's still a bit of romanticism that goes on in that sort of way. Start a meaningful speaker series featuring those that talk about their sales struggles and how they have handled them. They could be people from inside the organization or people from outside the organization. It makes it so that it's a learning environment where people learn from each other. Finally, run product demos early and often. Bring in people from the content team to talk about features of your product or medium. Give the salespeople the opportunity to feel like they own the product, that they own the content, and that they love that content. If you're in television or radio, have the production people show them what it takes to create a commercial. Have them sit in as part of watching the morning show or whatever it may be. If you're in an online environment, show them some of the ways that they keep track of measurement, how they upload content. The more that they are familiar with their product or service, the more they're going to believe in it and talk intelligently about that product or service, and hopefully increase sales as a result. And there you go. There is Chapter 9. Let's talk about some of the tips and tricks that we learned in this chapter when we get together. Maybe you're more suited for one particular method of reaching out than another, and maybe there's some things that you've learned about just networking with people in general. This is a good chapter for that. Let's talk about those things in class.